Welcome, welcome, welcome. Week 16 is already here. Cannot believe it. Nine teams eliminated from contention. Uh, well into week 16. Mike, any thoughts on the Thursday night game before we dive right into the rest of the weekend's matchups? What were your thoughts on that Broncos Chargers game?
Yeah, I mean, right off the bat, just how impressive it was just seeing Coach Jim Harbaugh's team. Justin Herbert looking great. The defense is looking fantastic. Both sides of the ball really playing their best ball right now. Um, I thought, I thought it was a very tight fought game for the first part of the game,
Hmm.
and then yeah, I mean, it came down to Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert. And Justin Herbert only had one interception in that game. Bo Nix did not play poorly, but I mean how
No,
they responded to that Broncos defense was very impressive on my end, and especially not really being able to lean on the run game. Although Gus Edwards did have a touchdown, I
he played
believe.
well.
Yeah,
Yeah, he played
he
well.
did. Yeah. I mean he played well. They were able to move the ball up and down the field. A bright spot, I think it's going to be big time for them going into the playoffs is going to be Stone Smart on that
Yeah.
offense. A emerging tight end for them. O line played really well. I mean, you saw the left side of the line with Joe Alt. Um, eh, I think they're coming into form as a team that kind of a dark horse. Not to maybe not to
Certainly.
win, maybe not to really win anything, but I think that could make some noise in a very winnable division.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to agree to. I mean, obviously this year, I think it's the Chiefs, no doubt, to lose. But going forward, I really do love the coach quarterback duo of Herbert and Harbaugh. 100%. They got really good coaching staff, and as a Bears fan, it's just night and day difference watching a really good coached football team. Both of these teams, honestly, the Broncos were really excellently coached all year. Sean Payton's led a team that I don't think any of us thought they'd have 9 wins, be a 9-6 football team right now. But they're playing phenomenal. But yeah, I
It,
do think the Chargers are a big team to look out for in the future. Definitely next year. I'm excited to see not only these young guys continue to develop, like Quentin Johnson, obviously, if he can ever, you know, really, really put it together, he could be an elite receiver. And then Lad McConkey, I love Lad McConkey. They could use one more guy, two more guys, but I love what they're building in LA.
when I said winnable division, I meant like compete with the Chiefs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Someone who will be able to
Yeah,
like put up a fight with them. And I think the
and
Chargers have shown that they definitely can. At least, I mean, playing against the Broncos. I mean, you put up 34 points against a division rival. That's
right,
that's not
it's a
nothing.
good defense. It's a good
Hmm.
defense too. Riley Moss is really missed on that in that secondary. I think when he gets back, there'll be a better football team. But yeah, really exciting football. One of the more exciting games, and as you mentioned with the Chiefs, like they are what 5 or 6 plays away from being what a 9-6 football team or
Exactly. Yeah.
7 and whatever football team. So yeah, it's hard to beat teams 3 times in one season as well. So that's what the Chiefs would have to do if they play Denver or LA. So
And
uh,
I think there's going to be some teams that could face off against the Chiefs, depending on how the rankings do play out in the final.
yeah,
As it comes down to it, I mean, I could see a 6.5 point spread, and I wouldn't hate taking the 6.5, depending on who's up there.
absolutely. And just kind of to piggyback off that, we could talk about the next big matchup this weekend and Saturday. We got the what we think 2 playoff teams right now, probably 2 playoff teams moving forward. The Houston Texans heading to Kansas City. Uh, in Kansas City, probably a cold weather football game. You're starting to see, playoff football really start to come about. Um, I think the spread right now is 3.5. Kansas City's favored by 3.5. Little surprising, but we know the issues the Texans had. Our guest Turtle, he would be the first to tell you like this interior offensive line has really been struggling all year, and they're starting center Juice Scruggs. He's going to be out. So obviously they're going to be playing Chris Jones. That's the matchup I think to look out for. Jared Patterson's probably going to get the start at center. Um, what are your thoughts on this game, Mike?
Where I kind of stand on it is, I mean, I think you're going to see a quarterback duel where C.J. Stroud outduels Patrick Mahomes. I really
Okay.
do. In terms of the yardage that's going to be put up, um, even given the deficiencies on the O line, because I mean the Kansas City Chiefs, they their O line has not been playing. It hasn't been as stellar in years past,
Yeah.
and I mean it really does stand true. I mean I think Stroud will outgain Mahomes in this game. It's very hard to say because I mean the Texans do. I mean they do look dangerous. I mean when Joe
Definitely.
Mixon has been playing out of his mind, Nico Collins and CJ Stroud's connection is there. But then it kind of comes to who else is going to produce on that offense for them to be able to move the ball down the field against that defense. Um, where I think they have the advantage for Kansas City, obviously Chris Jones up front is a monster, and I think up front for them, you go front seven versus front seven. That's where I think the game is going to be made is them putting more pressure on CJ Stroud than they're going to be able to get on Patrick Mahomes.
Mhm.
Um, 3.5 point spread. I do like the Chiefs. As chalk as that is.
Mhm.
We'll see. I think I think where it comes down to, and I mean, you do have to give Patrick Mahomes some credit. He has limited the turnovers in the past couple of weeks, and but this is a team that turned over Tua Tagovailoa 4 times. I think
Yeah.
no, 3 times, I believe,
3 times.
last week. So yeah, we'll see. I like the under. I like the under at 42. I think it's going to be an ugly game. Because I
Yeah.
think, but I think both strengths of each of these teams is on the defensive side of the ball.
Mhm.
X factor, I think though, is going to be Joe Mixon. If the Texans are going to be able to move the ball down the field and get the running game going, um, because I CJ Stroud is not a at least from what I've seen to this point. I mean, he's not a you know throw it deep and pray kind of guy. And,
Mhm.
I mean, you'll see that here and there with Nico Collins. Um, but I think for them to be able to maintain possession of the ball, because that's how you're going to beat the Chiefs. They're going to be able to
Yeah.
score quickly. They're going to be able to score quickly because Patrick Mahomes just kind of does that when it comes down to crunch time. I think,
Mhm.
but I think where the Texans are right now, I mean, they're much better coached than how this was in the 2019 AFC Championship game, and it was Deshaun Watson versus Patrick Mahomes. And you had Bill O'Brien going up against Andy Reid. I think it's going to come down to possession of the ball. I love the 3.5 point spread, but I do like Kansas City to cover it. I don't know. I think when you look at the weapons just on paper,
Mhm.
that's where it makes a difference for me. But I do like the under because I think the Texans defense has stepped up as of late. Especially with the being able to generate turnovers, and we've seen
Right.
Patrick Mahomes; he's not immune to it. So I mean, what do you
Yeah.
think?
To that point, I mean, Stingley, he's been playing really well. He's the one who got those turnovers for Houston. Obviously, the big ankle injury, we're not sure 100%, I think, if Mahomes is playing, but he should be in there. But yeah, to your point, given the spread is 3.5, I know it's a big spread, but yeah, I'd feel comfortable about taking the Chiefs this week. Um, I think the big thing to look out for this week is how CJ Stroud fares in cold weather. Obviously, he played at Ohio State, so I wouldn't have any concerns necessarily with him. Uh, but I don't think we've seen him play in this high pressure of a game uh, in the NFL. So I do agree with you. I think Joe Mixon, anytime touchdown scorer, he's going to be in the mix all game. He is the X factor to me as well. Uh, but yeah, without Juice Scruggs, um, with a struggling interior offensive line, I'd like to give at least the upper hand to Chris Jones in that Chiefs defense. As for the defense of the Texans, Al Shire is still out this week from that suspension, so not going to have him. He's one of your best tacklers, but Toa Toa has been playing really well, especially last week without Aziz. Uh, Ultimately, they're going to have to turn the ball over, whether it's Mahomes or Wentz, to have a chance in this game. If they do win this game, I think it'll be off the backs of Joe Mixon, and then I think Tank Dell will be a big part of their success. He had a great week last week. Really, the first time we really kind of saw him explode the way he exploded last week. So um, be a good
Here's
game.
where here's where I think the Texans. I mean, if you're gonna say where the Texans have the advantage on, it's gonna be, being able to create that pressure and making Mahomes move out of the pocket with that
Yeah,
poor ankle. And
and
I
the
think it's going to
tackles
be
too. The tackles as
exactly.
well.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the poor play on the tackles. I mean, that's been an issue all year that we've been talking about
Hmm.
for the Chiefs. I think the pressure that they're going to be able to get on Mahomes, maybe an X factor. I mean, they're going to force him to move out of the
Yeah,
pocket. D'Amico Ryan's is going to be sending all those guys, and then can you bank on Derek Stingley and those guys in the secondary? Yeah, yeah.
yeah. I
It
do. Yeah, I like the maybe a Will Anderson or Daniil Hunter anytime or over half a sack. I would love that kind of prop bet. Now that you mention it, but I do want to shout out Joe Tooney. He plays left guard and he played left tackle last week versus Miles Garrett. So he's battling. But yeah, you're right. That's something
what
to look out for.
I mean, looking at props on this one. I mean, if you're gonna take a shot in the dark, at least go Will Anderson or Daniil Hunter over a half a sack for
Yeah,
this
yeah,
game. I mean, I think that's how the Texans are going to be able to impose will and at least keep themselves in this game is going to be the pressure they get on Mahomes because they're gonna, like I said, they're gonna force him to get out of the pocket.
right.
They're gonna want to show their teeth on defense. So yeah, it's tough with the spread for this one. I think America would like to see the Texans cover the 3.5, but I mean,
Yeah,
we'll see. It's always such a crapshoot when it comes to,
yeah,
who's gonna be making the catches for the Chiefs, who will be an anytime touchdown scorer because
yeah.
it could be Carson Steele, all we know.
Could be Hollywood Browns coming back,
Hollywood
maybe,
Brown is gonna be back in
maybe.
this one, so
Um, yeah, you're right. Absolutely right. But champs are still the champs. So I guess we're going to roll with the champs. With that being said, we're going to move on to the next game. Two more playoff teams. This is for the AFC North as well. The 3:30 game on Saturday. Uh, Pittsburgh Steelers at Baltimore. Uh, I think nothing more needs to be said than this is for the division. Um, some injury news. I think Nelson Aguilar was officially ruled out for the Ravens. Transaction news: Deontay Johnson was waived today.
he was waived.
Uh,
Yep,
there's a high expectation that he gets claimed by somebody on Monday. So look out for him. Talked about it when the trade happened, when it went down. I thought it was a horrible idea. I thought they had enough skill in the wide receiver room as is. Um, it just turned out to be a bad move. sucks. Uh, but as far as this game is concerned, uh, Pittsburgh's dealing with some injuries in the secondary. I think Dante Jackson is questionable. Uh, so we'll see how that affects Pittsburgh's really, really good defense. Right now, I believe Baltimore's favored by 4.5. Uh, I do not know Kyle Van Noy. He's been dealing with a hamstring injury. Uh, Keep an eye out on that. But what are your thoughts on this game? How do you expect it to go uh, for the AFC North?
Well, they were favored by 4.5. It's up to 7 right now.
Oh,
Um,
shoot.
The
Oh,
Ravens are favored by a touchdown right now.
my God.
That's where it kind of comes into play. Like, I mean, it's very up in the air, especially divisional game. Going to be playing at Baltimore.
Yeah.
Um, Here's where I think you it kind of make or breaks it for Russell Wilson right now. I think this is a huge game for him.
For his
Um,
season,
for
for
his
his,
season,
his future in Pittsburgh?
for his future in Pittsburgh, for his season, for his
Yeah.
future in Pittsburgh. I mean, I think that these are the games that you got brought in here to be able to command an offense, and not in a way of maybe blowing, but not in a way of blowing the Ravens out. But I think this is a very susceptible defense compared to what
Right.
it has been in years past.
Right.
But I do like the Steelers to cover the 7
Sure.
because I think there are weaknesses on the Baltimore defense, especially when you start talking about the linebacker core and the secondary. Do you have a note on if George Pickens is going to be in this game? I
He's out. I believe
He's
he is
out.
out, hamstring, which is a big deal. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean that's what I was gonna say. It's just like it feels like without him or with him, they're a one trick pony. Uh, they're gonna throw deep shots to him and run the ball, throw check downs, and maybe a couple pop passes or you know medium routes to Fryermuth. So
And I think as of late, at least over the past 2 3 weeks, I mean Jalen Warren's been playing really good, really well.
yeah,
They've been able to get that offensive line going forward, and it's been able to help Russell Wilson out in the pass game. Um, Mike Tomlin as a road dog. I mean, we know what the stats are. I believe he's like 21-3 and 1 at this point. Maybe 23-2 and 1. He's in the 20s. He has single digit losses,
yeah,
and I think he has maybe one tie. Going into this game, but divisional, very tough to tell. It's very hard to bet against who I think is the MVP frontrunner right now. Um, with Lamar Jackson, I'm curious to see. I mean, what do you think on the defensive side of the ball with Pittsburgh? Yeah, I mean, that's been an exploitable unit, the offensive line for the Ravens. But I
uh,
mean, you have Lamar Jackson, who is the guy that's able to create outside the pocket if T.J. Watt is going to be
yeah,
breathing down his neck, every 3 or 4 plays.
yeah. I think the Ravens. I think that's going to be their biggest concern to address this offseason is that offensive line. Ronnie Stanley's going to be a free agent, and then I think the left guard position could use a bit of an upgrade. And yeah, you're right. I think there are some holes on the offensive line. I think they're a little young in some places. Uh, the big thing for me with Pittsburgh is just making sure Dante Jackson and Deshaun Elliott are good to go health wise. I think that secondary is one of the most underrated secondaries in the league. Um, Albeit Joey Porter, he does get picked on at times. Um, I don't necessarily think Baltimore is going to target Joey, but that the way that line moved, I think it's fair to say Baltimore should win the game. But you're right, I can't take 7 points with Tomlin as an on the road dog. Um,
Here,
but the
here's
big
here here's here's where I think it comes down to. It's going to be if the Steelers are going to stay in this game, it's going to be ugly. And if the
Oh yeah.
Steelers are going to stay in this game, you're going to go under 44 and a half. It's going to be a 23-20 game.
Hmm.
But if the Ravens are going to win, how they have won, basically every game this year is being able to just outplay everyone on the offensive side of the ball. Obviously, of
Yeah.
course, of Lamar Jackson. And I I think if I lean aside, I lean the Steelers, but I do like the over just because I think the potential for the offense to come alive on the Ravens side of the ball. I mean, I think this is a game if Lamar Jackson is going to cement himself as MVP frontrunner, this is the game you do it in.
Yeah. I have to
I
push back. I got to push back a little bit. I think Josh Allen is the runaway winner. I
That's
just got to
true.
say
That's
that.
true. Or okay, I should say to put himself, to fight up into the conversation. I think
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson comes out with
Yeah.
a big game here. But
Absolutely.
yes, no, I mean I agree. Josh Allen, runaway winner with it. Curious to see what you think about the Ravens backfield. I mean, it's kind of been
Yeah.
it's gotten the same questions that kind of has the past couple of years. With J.K. Dobbins obviously gone, Gus Edwards obviously gone, both in Los Angeles. Curious to see kind of what happens with that. It's been such a minimal part of of them being able to move the ball up and down the field, but that's because you have a running quarterback like Lamar Jackson who can make up for it
Mhm.
with, you call a pass play. If nothing transpires, I mean, he's able to get outside the pocket and move the ball down the field. And I think it, even if you're Mike Tomlin, even if you're the Steelers defense, I mean that's still going to be a glaring spot that you're going to have to address every single play. And I think at the end of the day, that's going to be too much for him.
Sure. Yeah. Um, Also, just to keep an eye out on him, T.J. Watt ankle injury, but he's
Mhm.
according to Tomlin, he is good to go. Should be good to go. Um, but yeah, this is going to be an exciting game. Saturday, tomorrow's games, uh, college and NFL, are going to be electric.
Sit
Um,
back, relax, and strap it down.
Absolutely. Um, can't wait. And this college football playoff, we're watching NDIU. I mean, it's exciting. It's just really exciting to see this coming uh, down the path. But for now, we'll move to the Sunday games. Uh, the big game that I'm looking forward to most on Sunday at noon, I think, is another divisional matchup. Uh, Seems like a little bit of a little brother, big brother situation.